I only have 80 games left before I have the full North American licensed NES collection. There's about 40 games that are under $100, and there's about 40 games in that list that are over $100. So in this video, I want to check in with you guys, talk about some of the games I have left in that NES collection. Like I said, there's only 80 games left, and there is about 40 of them that are under $100. The other 40 go from $100 up to like $1,600. It's gonna get a little pricey when we're doing that. We're gonna talk about how I plan on tackling this, the method that I'm gonna collect for these games, and kind of some of my ideas on how I'm gonna manage this as I go. There are definitely games that are cheap games that I still need to collect. Games like George Foreman's KO Boxing is one of them. This game comes in at about that $16 price range. And George Foreman's Boxing came to us in 1992. Now this one came to us on the Game Boy, the Super Nintendo, the NES, and the Sega Genesis from Beam Software. This is almost an identical game to Beam's previous boxing game with Power Punch 2. And this one really didn't get that good of reviews. And this one we're playing as George Foreman as we try to become the undisputed heavyweight champ of the world. Now the one we're talking about here was developed by Beam Software. There is a Game Gear and a Master System version of George Foreman's KO Boxing, but that one is based on the Master System version of Heavyweight Champ. So it is a different game than the one we saw on the Super Nintendo and the Sega Genesis, along with the NES and the Game Boy. This one's not a really expensive game, not a super high-end game, but it's still one that I need in my collection. Other games I need are games like Kid Cool, Ninja Kids, Puss in Boots, Clash Ball, Starship Hector, and from Mindscape, a game that I haven't been able to find all that often is Championship Pool, which is just a pool game, but it's one that I need to have in the collection, and one that I don't really want to be that last game that I'm going to find when I'm collecting. And that's kind of how I'm looking at this collection now, is what game do I not want to be the very last game that I need to add to my NES collection to complete it. There's a lot of games on this list that would be great final games, but there's also so many more that I do not want to be that last game in the list.
One Zulu Niner pre-flight check.
Roger, Tower.
Turbo A.
That's a go.
Turbo B.
Check.
Cycloid control.
A-OK.
Rapid fire.
All right, let's fire it up.
The NES Max, only from Nintendo.
One of the original black box games on the NES that came to us in 1985 that I still don't have in my collection is going to be Ice Climber. Ice Climber is a platforming game developed and published by Nintendo. This was released on both that Arcade Versus system and the NES or the Famicom. This one is one that I'm super excited to find and add to my collection. Does that make it one I'm hunting for right away? Probably not, because this could be a cool one to have as the last game in my NES collection. But I guess we'll see what happens as we go. Games like Monster Truck Rally from 1991. This is a racing game. This is a Monster Truck Rally game, and this one has special events in it like the automotive tug of war, sled pulling, and all sorts of other interesting monster truck fun. I remember renting this one. I remember playing this one as a kid. This one is another one that I might be okay if this is the last game I need in that NES collection. In that list, there's also games like Donkey Kong Jr., Batman Returns, and Eliminator Boat Duel. My list also has games like Prince of Persia on it, which, from a gameplay standpoint, looking at it now, not the greatest game, but the Prince of Persia series is such a cool series that has touched almost every console and system out there, but I'm excited to get that one for the NES. This list has games like Ninja Crusader from 1991. This is one that came to us from Sammy. Star Trek The Next Generation came to us in 1993. This one has a NES version and a Game Boy version. And I remember watching Star Trek The Next Generation as a kid and thinking it was super cool. So I'm excited to get this one on the NES. Games like King's Quest V from 1991. King's Quest V is actually the first version of a King's Quest game to replace that typing functionality with that point and click method of gameplay, which I think is super cool. From 1991, Worm. This one has a bunch of different gameplay styles and is one that I'm interested in checking out. Games like Defenders of Dynatron City from 1992. This was developed by Lucasfilms. This one had a TV special. There's comic books revolving around Defenders of Dynatron City. I don't think this one ever really went that far, but Defenders of Dynatron City is an interesting game to have in an NES collection. So I'm excited to get that one.
Welcome to Dynatron City, proud symbol of the atomic age. Wait, something has gone wrong. Mutants are taking over the metropolis. Who can stop these terrifying creatures?
Yahoo!
Only a new breed of superhero with superpowers
I'm charged.
can save our world.
You lift your head.
Glad you mentioned it. Watch The Defenders of Dynatron City, Saturday, February 22nd on Fox.
I need to find Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, the Taito version, because like you would have seen in one of my previous videos, I did get the Ubi version of Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. They're the same title for a game, but they're different games that came from different developers, which makes it so they are both different games in the NES collection. And then games start to get a little bit more expensive. We get closer to that $100 range with games like Bram Stoker's Dracula. Bram Stoker's Dracula came to us in 1993. This one was released on the Mega Drive or the Genesis, the NES, the Super NES, the Master System, the Sega CD, the Game Gear, MS-DOS, and the Amiga. This one is based on the 1992 film of the same name. It's based on Dracula. It's based on that Bram Stoker's novel from 1897, which that's crazy. And this game, it comes in close to $100 for me. So we're starting to get up there in prices here. There's games that are in that $100 range that are ones that you just collect to add them to that collection, like Mickey Mouse's Adventures in Numberland. This one really touches that $100 mark. And I'm gonna have to get that because I need that to complete the collection, because this is something that I really want to finish. I feel like I don't finish a ton of things that I start sometimes. So the NES collection is definitely something I want to complete. Obviously, I'm not gonna go for stadium events because after this collection is complete, I do want to start collecting for the Super Nintendo. So if I don't get stadium events, which is world-class track meet, sorry, it just is, other than the title screen and maybe a screen at the end, it's world-class track meet. I don't need to spend like $20,000 to $30,000 on a video game. That's one I don't need because I have world-class track meet. And I can use that money when it comes time and start to collect for the Super Nintendo, which is what I'm gonna do once I complete the NES set. Lethal Weapon is one that touches that $100 mark. This one came to us on the NES in 1992, on the Game Boy in 1993. This one's based on the film series of Lethal Weapon, a series that a lot of us probably remember either our parents watching, maybe watching it with your dad or something like this. This one was released in conjunction with Lethal Weapon 3, the third installment in the series. This is a side scroller. Don't really know much about this one, which means I'm excited to collect it. I've never played it. I've seen it at a couple conventions. Kind of wish I would have picked it up. I love the Lethal Weapon series. It's probably not going to be an amazing game, but it's one that I'm excited to check out. And one of the last games that is up near that $100 mark right now, based on price charting, is going to be Uninvited, one of the few horror games we saw on the NES. This is that point and click style of game, one that I'm interested in picking up. Maybe this is one I'll try to find around that Halloween time, that spooky season. Add Uninvited to my collection. But after this, we're up over $100 on a lot of these games. It's gonna get a little pricey. Games that are above that $100 mark are gonna be games like Race America. This one I have seen at a few conventions. Don't know much about it. It's gonna be a racing game. This one's about that $120 mark. Ultima Warriors of Destiny is, I think, the last Ultima game I need in the NES collection. We're looking about $120 at this point. Games like Jimmy Connor's Tennis. This is a Ubisoft game, $140 right now on price charting. As my friend Ryan said when we were looking at that full collection a couple of weeks ago, this one is a crappy game that is expensive. It's a tennis game, not a great tennis game on the NES, but it's one that runs up there in that $140 range. Bandit Kings of Ancient China. This is a Koei game. I feel like there's a lot of these Koei games that are these higher end, more expensive games. Games like Chubby Cherub are one that I need that are in that $150 range. Games like Cool World that I have no idea. I remember watching the Cool World movie kind of when it came out and thinking this is a really weird movie. I don't know if it was super age appropriate for me at that time. This is another one of those ones like Roger Rabbit where they mixed animation with live action, something that they were really trying to do back then that didn't super take off like I think they thought it would. So I don't know if this game is going to be any good. There's more games that are kid-geared games like Color a Dinosaur that I need to pick up. Color a Dinosaur came to us from Virgin. This one is about $165 right now. It's a coloring book on the NES. It's Mario Paint on the NES coloring dinosaurs. I need to get a coloring book on the NES to color some dinosaurs for $165 to complete the NES collection. There's games like Squoon on here. This is one I feel like I should have picked up when I was going through that collection with Ryan, about $175 game. Games like Frankenstein from Bandai, about $181 right now. This one is kind of an interesting looking game. I'm interested to get this one and check it out. Games like The Last Action Hero, which is a pretty cool movie and a title they brought to a bunch of different systems as well. The Last Action Hero is based on the 1993 film of The Last Action Hero. This one came to us on the NES, the Super NES, the Sega Genesis, the Game Boy, the Game Gear, and MS-DOS. This one takes the form of a side-scrolling beat-em-up. Every version of the game has a cinematic showdown with Mr. Benedict, the movie's primary villain, except the NES, the Game Boy, and the Game Gear versions. There are two car chase scenes, one that comes in that Jack Slater movie world, and another one that would be in the real world that he got pulled out of that movie into. Now, the NES and the Amiga version, however, do not feature any of these car chase levels. Cool thing is, the NES version has an original element that none of the other versions have. This one has a stage that portrays Danny, the primary character's version of the classic Shakespeare play Hamlet, which is kind of interesting. They included that only in the NES version, and we don't see the car chase scenes in the NES version, just this random stage that isn't in anything else. I still need to pick up games like Bomberman 2 from Hudson. This one is about a $213 game right now. It's Bomberman 2 on the NES, and it's one that I'm really excited to get because then I'll complete that little subset of the Bomberman games on the Nintendo.
By Hudson.
There's games like Donkey Kong Jr. Math, which is one that I'm probably only going to play when I do my 10 games in my NES series and include it in it. That's one that I'm not super excited to pick up, but it's one that I need to add to the NES set. Another one's getting a little more expensive, a little harder to find, is going to be the black box game of Stack Up. This one runs about $230 right now, came to us from Nintendo, and is one of those original black box games that I still need in my collection. There's games like THQ's Swamp Thing running at about $260 right now on price charting. Another one that I need for the collection. Jalico's Pro Sport Hockey, $283 right now on price charting. Another one that is a sports game that I need to add to my collection. And it's just a hockey game. It's not even one of the good hockey games on the system. It's just all sports hockey. Another one I need is gonna be Wayne's World. Now, I love the Wayne's World movies. The game, on the other hand, not the best. Wayne's World comes to us from THQ and sits about that $300 range right now. This is a pricey game, and again, it's one that doesn't look like it's that great. It's one I've looked at, thought, you know what, I would love to have it because it's Wayne's World. It's one that is one of those movie franchises that you want to be a good game, but the execution on it might not have been as good as it could have been. There's games like Snow Bros from 1990. This is a platform arcade game that was brought over to the NES. This one looks super cool. I have never played Snow Bros, but I'm excited to pick it up and add it to the collection. This is a single player or a multiplayer game. Again, a platforming game that I've never got to experience. And Snow Bros comes in at about $375 right now on price charting. So we're a little pricey to play Snow Bros. Another expensive one that I'm not super excited to get to pick up is Zombie Nation. Zombie Nation comes in at about $620 right now. This one came to us in 1990. This is a shoot 'em up game, and this one revolves around a floating samurai head that goes to the United States to destroy Darkseid, which is an alien that's crashed into Earth via a meteorite in 1999. And it turned all of the people in the United States into zombies. So a floating samurai head is going to go and eliminate these zombies. Like, when I see the title Zombie Nation and even the cover for Zombie Nation, I'm like, oh, this could be cool. I can't imagine getting this one as a kid, maybe being into those horror movies or something like that back then. Getting this, throwing it in this system on a Christmas morning or something like that. Why you would get a zombie game on a Christmas morning is what it is. But playing this one, flying around in a shoot 'em up style game as a floating samurai head, killing zombies, I don't know, that just seems a little weird to me. Coming in at about $650, I need Kid Clown. This one is a platformer. This one looks kind of interesting. This is one I don't know anything about. If you know something about some of these games that I'm talking about, you want to tell me something about them, please let me know in the comments. I would love to hear about it. I want to know, are some of these games worth me getting? Would you pick them up? Probably not for the price they're asking for a lot of these nowadays, right? And then we start to get into the expensive games, the games that are going to be over $1,000. Now, I do have Bonk's Adventure already. Excited to have this one in the collection. Glad I don't have to get it again. You also would have seen a couple weeks ago, I picked up Little Samson. I still don't even believe I have this in my collection. This is crazy that I have Little Samson in my NES collection. I am so excited to eventually, once this is all done, once I get all of the hangers that I have getting printed for the NES collection, to be able to set up a full wall of the NES collection, all of them hanging on a wall, any of these games I can pull off and play. That is a goal that has been on my mind for a long time. Ever since I watched Nintendo Quest quite a few years ago, I've wanted that. I should have done it back then when I initially saw that show and thought, you know what, I would like to do that. But at the time, I started looking at prices and I was like, oh, I don't think I'm gonna do that. Now, that would have been a lot cheaper than today. So I kind of regret that, but I'm excited that I'm finally going to be able to follow through with that thought back then and have the full NES collection. And it's cool because now I know that Jay might even watch this video and he might understand that, you know, it's kind of because of him. His journey in NES Quest kind of lit that fire originally. Yeah, it took a few years for that fire to smolder and to become something for me to go for a full collection. But it's because of that that I have this YouTube channel. It's because of that that I get to talk to you guys about these games. So honestly, Jay, thank you so much for doing that back then, because really without that, I probably wouldn't be sitting here right now, because you really did light that fire. And I think you probably did for quite a few people. I know there's lots of other creators out there that do have the full NES sets. I know Pixel Game Squad just finished theirs. Retro Rick has finished his. Gabo got the full NES collection. You know what? I think it's really cool. I'm excited to be a part of that kind of group of people. If you have a full NES collection, I know there's a few of you that leave comments that are getting close. I'm excited for us all to get there and all get to have that moment when we can look at our collection, be like, you know what? We finally got there. The ones I do need that are over $1,000 are gonna be Panic Restaurant. Panic Restaurant is a really cool looking game. This one comes in at about $1,100 right now. This one, from the cover, I wouldn't have really thought much of it. Kind of looks weird if I'm looking at the cover art. But look at the gameplay. Super, super cool looking. I'm excited to add this one to my collection. This is one that I do not want to be the last game in my set. Another one that is about $1,300 is Power Blade 2. Now I have Power Blade 1. I got that from my buddy Craig. And Power Blade 2 is one I'm excited to add to the collection. Yeah, it's a pricey game. It's also one that I don't want to be the last game in my collection. I don't want any of these higher end ones to be that last game. So I'm gonna probably be gunning for them a little bit, because that'll cross those off the list. There's certain games that I don't want to be that last game, which is really gonna affect how I collect going forward. I might leave some games behind at conventions or at video game stores that I'm like, ooh, that would be a good one for the last one. Hopefully I don't regret that, because I don't know, it seems like an interesting way to collect. I don't really know why my mind is going that direction, but I'm kind of glad it is. And then the last expensive one I need is Flintstones Surprise at Dino Peak. This one comes in about that $1,600 range. And I'm excited for the time that I do get Flintstones Surprise at Dino Peak. It's gonna be a lot like when I got Little Samson. Crossing that off the list, it's gonna feel really weird. It's gonna feel like a bit of a dream, but after that, I don't ever have to buy that game again. I never have to spend that much money on an NES game after that. Now, how long do I think it's gonna take for me to get there? There's a lot of cash here. There really is. There's 40 games that are over $100, and those games run from $100 up to, like we just saw, like $1,600. Am I gonna be able to spend all that money that quick? Definitely not. But am I gonna go slow? Am I gonna do what I need to do to make sure I have a really cool game for the last game in my set? Absolutely. We're probably looking at least another year before I complete this, but the journey and the adventure is more than worth the time waiting. So I'm really excited to complete this. Can't wait for that to happen, because then I get to move on to the Super Nintendo, which I am so excited about. I haven't even been looking at Super Nintendo games at conventions anymore. I just turn away because I don't want to fall in that hole. Well, I'm still fighting with this one. So once this is done, we're gonna go for Super Nintendo.